right, really great to see everyone here today, and always great to be talking about startups in the MENA region. We, as Flo just mentioned, there's some really great opportunities here in the UAE and the MENA at the moment. And actually, it's not by coincidence. I think there's some really great circumstances that are happening at the moment, but there's also a huge drive behind it from government to make sure that we have the right talent, the right growth, the opportunities, and the infrastructure to make it all happen. And so we have some really impressive stats that I can't remember all of them, but it's pretty phenomenal to see that we've got 23,000 startups in the MENA region. We have 864 million of funding for MENA startups between January and March this year. So to put that into context, that's 161% growth year on year. We have 1 out of 4 deals in the MENA region went to fintech startups in 2021, and 85% of that of fintech firms in the MENA region operate in payments, transfers, and the remittances sector. So we're really lucky to have Chris here today to talk a little bit about that. The UAE is also #1 position in the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor 2022 list. So we have some really great things working in our favor to make sure that things are going in the right direction and that we're able to grow the startup community within the MENA region. My name is Kate Mittoon. I'm the CEO and founder of Acorn Strategy. I actually launched my company here in Abu Dhabi as well. I love talking about my entrepreneurship journey and the opportunities that other people have as well. So it's really great to be here today with Elodie. So Elodie is the head of strategy for Hub 71 and has a great background in defense, focusing mostly on business development and industry partnerships. Been in the region for 20 years, with 6 years being with Abu Dhabi government entities. So welcome, Elodie.
Thank you.
And a big welcome to Chris. So you're with People.
That's right.
And and so People have been doing some really incredible work in the MENA region and across Africa and also within the UAE from their base here. So really great to have you both here with us to talk about your own experiences. Elodie, do you want to get started with a little bit of discussion about what Hub 71 are doing for the ecosystem in the MENA region?
So Hub 71 is the ecosystem enabler from Abu Dhabi government. What we do is that if you want to grow this kind of tech ecosystem, it's not only about money, it's not only about funding, but it's also how you are able, to bring together these very smart people and being sure that their growth path is as smooth as possible. So what we are currently doing at Hub 71 is that we support startup for all the journey from ideation up to soon pre-IPO. And we have different, type of programs for this different type of maturity, starting with a venture studio, an accelerator program backed by an incentive program, and also a current scale-up program that we are piloting. On the other side, what we do is that we don't only run startup program, is that we are bringing the ecosystem that startup will need to grow with us physically in our co-working space and facilities here in ADGM. And we have the regulators, in the heart of our ecosystem, because of course, especially in highly regulated sectors, yes, as People is working on, you need the support, of regulators. Bringing also access to market, thanks to our corporate partners who are also part of our ecosystem, helping them also on maturing the digital transformation journey. And on the two other sides, helping them also with access to talents, with a couple of partnerships with major universities in the region. And of course, the people that we love the most, the investors, having, different type of partners on that side, more than 30 VCs, a lot of business angel and family offices, and also working with a couple of growth VCs. So Hub 71, since inception, we've been launched 3 years ago on a mandate from the Executive Council. And we have today 200 companies as part of our ecosystem. Very proud of that, People being one of them. And we have more than 30 corporate partners, more than 35 VCs. We managed to help our startup to secure more than 3 billion of fundraising, talking about dirhams, and securing 2.7 billion of dirhams in market value. So
It's pretty incredible, isn't it? It's really exciting to hear that, and to hear that that is coming out of the region. And so, Chris, people are part of the Hub 71 ecosystem as well, and you've just closed your Series B funding.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit more about your journey to date, and also how Hub 71 have helped that?
Absolutely, yeah. Very proud to be part of the Hub 71 program, and people's journey is basically why do startups thrive in the MENA region? Well, there are big problems that need solving, and they're not without their challenges. So I think being part of an incubator and a scale-up program like Hub 71, I think, is essential. The problem that we're solving is financial inclusion and the underbanked in the Middle East and Africa. So this is really a lot different to developed markets where people already have a bank account and they might want to supplement that with a financial technology service. But the people in the Middle East and Africa, most of them, 800 million, of the 800 million, most of them do not have a bank account or are underserved by their financial institution. So that's like in Europe, all bank accounts just been turned off right now. That's how big the problem is. So, and it's not just in fintech, it's in other sectors as well, in healthcare, in agriculture. There are huge problems that need solving, and I think that's why we need innovation. We need incubator systems and support systems like Hub 71 and ADGM, and good regulators that understand, what the opportunities are out there and what the needs of the region are. And I think Abu Dhabi's a great spot to be there. The people always willing to help without wanting necessarily anything in return. So I think it's a real circular network here in Abu Dhabi and Hub 71. So great place to be. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And so tell us why it's important that that you serve the unbanked, and how that is helping the world and helping solve problems.
Yeah, so for example, Africa is fast-growing e-commerce, but they're about, on average, in terms of world growth rates in e-commerce, at about 27%. But I think Africa's got a lot more potential than that. So part of our use of funds from our Series B 20 million capital raise that we just closed is going to be on expanding our service here in the MENA region, but also in the Middle East and also in Africa. And I think fintech is a great enabler for other sectors to grow as well. So people want to access e-commerce. They need that magic 16-digit card number, so then they can go and access online services. To health tech, if they want to access a remote doctor service, how do they pay for that? So there are so many use cases. If you're a student and you want to start your own business and you want to advertise your business in the gig economy through Facebook ads or whatever the case may be, there are so many different use cases out there, and fintech is a huge, one of the biggest of the technology sectors, because financial services touch everything. So.
Yeah, it's really impressive hearing your story about how you're helping people to do that as well. Yeah. So, and Elodie, are there other examples of companies that have started up within Hub 71 and the problems that they're helping to solve? Where to start?
Yes, of course. As you can imagine, with 200 companies, we have a lot of examples. But I think the most important part, as you were saying, I decided, to leave my home country and decided to make the UAE my new home country for my family. I think what excited me a lot is about, especially when talking about, building this new type of economy, as you were saying, and we know that the startups are playing a big role in it, touching down also on climate tech, we recently supported a company relocating from Singapore. We use 3D printing, to be able to build new type of habitat for mangroves and potentially coral. So, I think that's also something like the type of sectors where Abu Dhabi and also ADGM, is really free to support, because we are trying to do things with an impact. Our point is not only, to have this investor heart, where of course we want our startup to be successful, because that's the best way to measure their success. But also we want to be sure that everything we do has an impact, for the broader Abu Dhabi ecosystem, but also the Emirates and the region. And that's one of our key motto.
Absolutely. No, it's wonderful to see. And it's so great to hear all of these stories coming out as well. So, what are some of the great trends, some of the economic impacts that we're seeing that create this kind of unique environment at the moment that are shaping the future? So, I know you spoke about a couple of examples there, but Chris, perhaps if you talk a little bit about fintech and what's happening there.
No, definitely. And just to follow on Elodie's point, we've talked about the card, and that's we have a virtual and prepaid card, and people can who don't have a bank account or underserved by their financial institution, they can load money, whether that's cash or from their mobile money in Africa, who would otherwise be unable to access, a payment card can now do so and access the e-commerce. I've talked about that. But another one that's really on making an impact is remittances, and we talk a lot about remittances, and there are a lot of players in the remittance. But if you look at remittance from the standpoint of foreign direct investment in economies in the Middle East and Africa remittances are 10 times the foreign direct investment of economies in Africa. So if you think about that, a lot of these countries really rely on those remittances, on those people working here and sending money home to their families. That's the lifeblood of some of these economies. So, and where innovation and trends are coming, improving the flows of that money by making it using innovative technology like blockchain, which we use to deliver remittances to Africa and South Asia, making an impact by reducing the cost and the time and the anxiety of sending money home. And any reduced cost while maintaining a sustainable business has a great impact, because it means the families at home in their home country, ultimately get more at the receiving end. And as I said, that's the volume of those monies are 10 times any development aid. So which is an interesting way to think about it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Elodie, for when we're talking about digital assets and medtech, agtech, what are the trends coming that make those great companies of the future?
So when we work on the future of Herb and we design a new strategy, for the future of Herb, it was very important for us to understand how we can retain talent. And as I was saying, how we are able, because our community now is growing. So as Chris was saying, they just raised their Series B. And the point is that it takes a very different mandate to support a company to move from ideation to Series A and to support like the fast track and the growth of a post Series B scale up. So that's why, we spent a lot of time with the team to work on what is our value proposition, because that's how you create a community who wants to give, and help each other. And that's how you are able also to retain talent and scale them. So that's why, we definitely think that as Abu Dhabi and being part of the tech ecosystem of Abu Dhabi, the value is definitely around highly regulated sector. We've seen, in the last 3 years that 25% of our companies were in an organic way part of the medtech vertical, and the other 15% of the fintech vertical. Why? It's not rocket science. We have an amazing regulator, ADGM, which is like sitting with us,
Yeah.
We have an amazing health regulator, which is DOH, having his own offices with us. So that's why, in the new strategy that we are currently developing, we want to start with this strong partnership, with the regulator, because that's the point. If you come here and can't get licensed and don't have a regulatory framework to build your company, you will not be able to do any business.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this is, and definitely when you look at the different emerging ecosystem, and when you look at more mature ecosystem in Europe or in the US, and especially in digital asset now, we are in discussion with a couple of companies, of course, coming from Hong Kong and China, but also coming from Silicon Valley, who are telling us, okay, your regulation is impressive, very advanced, and we want to be a part of it. So that's why, we decided to focus on these couple of verticals where we know that it takes a little bit more than just money to scale.
Yep.
We know it's a hard game. It's not the easiest one to do, but we truly believe that, especially thanks to the business ecosystem already existing in Abu Dhabi, thanks to the Mubadala asset, which is of course our custodian, but also thanks to the ADQ asset, we have an amazing, anchor partners with big leaders in the market, and we just need to plug the right startup and the right regulator and funding partners to make it grow.
Exactly, and I think it ties into to another emerging theme, which is digital assets as well. And Talking again about Africa, a lot of people want to put their money into, say, a USDT stablecoin instead of their, devaluing currencies. So working with Hub 71 and ADGM regulator, is something we want to explore as an emerging trend, to do it in a safe way, in a regulated way that everyone's, the investors and also obviously the people are protected. So yeah.
I think one of the things that I've always loved about Abu Dhabi is that you can be part of that story and be part of the growth, and to have that unique opportunity as a startup to be here and to be helping shape some of that regulatory environment is such a big benefit as well. And so Elodie, you touched on it a little bit about the Abu Dhabi being a hub to the rest of the world. So where do you see the opportunities for people, or where is ADGM headed in terms of providing that hub so that people have other places that they can go to from the region, from Abu Dhabi?
So I think there is step between what we design and put on a couple of slides for our new strategy, and what we felt on the ground when we were traveling. And definitely, I think that Abu Dhabi has been very advanced compared to other hubs in the region, because we started this journey 3 years ago. We managed to attract 200 companies. And of course, we went through a lot of pain points, we went through a couple of failures, because that's how you learn in innovation. And now we know what we are strong at, and we know what is our value proposition. Mm-hmm. So definitely, Abu Dhabi is an amazing space to grow your company, especially if you want to target Africa and Asia.
Yes.
Because as you were saying, we are in a very developed economy, a very stable economy with amazing regulators. When you're in ADGM, you are not even under the UAE regulation. You're under common law, which is very unique in the region.
Yes.
So we are ticking, the boxes of a lot of amazing things. And what we are currently doing as Hub, is to be sure that we are spreading the word and telling tech companies, especially in their growth expansion and international expansion, come soft land in Abu Dhabi, use us, as your springboard into Middle East. And by the way, we just signed our partnership with the Saudi Government Mixed Foundation last week, because we want also to be able, to grow our companies beyond the UAE, and be able also to welcome, companies from ecosystem to grow in the UAE, and closing also a couple of partnerships in Africa and Asia.
Yeah. Fantastic. So exciting. And Chris, you've benefited from that ability to be able to expand from the UAE as well. And I know one of your competitive advantages at People is that you have that great breadth as well as the reach. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what Elodie was saying is, it's great to be in Abu Dhabi as a headquarter, as a platform to, I guess, prove the concept in a great environment, and then develop that concept across markets. So we're now in Bahrain as well. We'd love to expand further in the region, but also prove that concept here in multiple markets, and then move that to Africa. So we're already started in Kenya, and keep going further. And I think as the capital markets develop, and there's, talking about the big picture, we're now graduated from a startup phase company to a growth phase company with our Series B funding, which is growth capital, essentially, to grow in our existing markets, but expand in the Middle East and Africa. I think as the capital markets here keep going as well with ADX and DFM, and the time zone we're in, it's not too dissimilar from London, and that connection in time zone, and be able to operate on multiple regions. I think it's just going to increasing value of a platform of being based in Abu Dhabi. For a growth stage company and companies who want to scale up in the Hub 71 program as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We work with a lot of Australian companies as well coming into the region. We talk a lot about to and through the UAE. You set up here and then establish your base and then go through from there.
If I may double click on that, we had an amazing discussion yesterday. And by the way, Israel also is one of our cross-border program that we signed in September. The gentleman, I will not share his name, but coming from the Israeli government, was telling us, we are amazing in Israel to build, companies from ideation to MVP. you are very good at scaling them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's try to see how we can work together, you
Yes.
know, and be able to tap into that pool of talent
Yeah.
and see how we can help them also grow from
Yes,
Abu Dhabi.
it's about creating a hotbed of talent here. Absolutely. Yeah. Amazing.
So we all clearly love Abu Dhabi, and we've been here for many years and have seen many businesses thrive, and we all work with it. But as with all of the positives, you know, there are downsides to things. What would you say are the downsides or the pitfalls for people starting up businesses here, or investors coming into the region as well?
I think it's understanding the region, especially for people who are not from the region. So I think if people actually come here from the US and see what it's about, then that will change their maybe not change their minds, but they'll see a much deeper perspective of the value of being here. And you know, perhaps you know, one of our investors who's part of you know, very close to Hub 71 as well is Global Ventures, and they had their AGM in New York, and that's to bring the companies here and show the people in the US, the investors in the US, what we're about. So then next time we'll have it here in Abu Dhabi, they'll have it here in Abu Dhabi next year, and then they'll be more inclined to come back. So I guess it's more of like showing them the depth of value of being here. And also a high-speed train between Dubai and Abu Dhabi would be good as well, I think. Yeah.
That would help. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Put that on the wish list.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, and that's also the message that we pass on when we travel, is that you need to be part of that journey. It's very important that you have this willingness to build that ecosystem with us, you know. Most of the first interaction we have with people who doesn't know the region and have not been coming to the Middle East is that they think that we are not very advanced in our journey, and they think that we are just here to be positioned as like investors. We're not. And I can tell you, like, if you understand what we are trying to build, and if you want to be part of that journey, we can bring to you much more than money, to be honest. And I think that's what we love within our community, is that commitment to build it all together. And we have an amazing value creation team as part of Hub 71. They are doing miracles for the startup, you know, being able to open like any doors you will need. So that's the value of Abu Dhabi, is that we are all working together, all the government agencies, the regulators, ADIO, ourselves, you know, to make it work and to grow it as fast as possible, but in a way which is like structured, you know.
Yeah, and they got the entrepreneurs in-house at Hub 71 who have been there and done that, not only here in the region, but in Europe. So they know the global, they know how to make a business go global. You know, whatever support you need in, you know, media and communications. So Hub 71 and ADGM have been super helpful with us with getting our story out, not only here in their media contacts in the region, but internationally. So I think it crosses, not just funding. It's across all the verticals and the key, I guess, growth pillars that you need to grow your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that being part of that conversation and being part of the journey, as you say, is just so important. And I remember when I applied for my golden visa, and I remember telling someone in Australia that they changed a couple of bylaws to get my golden visa through. And they're like, how does that happen, Mike? It's just, that's the kind of thing that happens in this country. You've just got to be there. You've got to be part of it. And you've got to be part of the conversation and have that willingness to invest in as much as you get out of that as well. So, Chris, tell us a bit more about what we can expect from people in the coming years.
Yeah, so like I said, the big picture for people is to be in 20 to 25 countries in the Middle East and Africa in the next 3 to 5 years. So there are a lot of fintechs in the region, but there's not one that's really winning the market, and there's a huge need for our services, and we differentiate ourselves by having multiple products, so all the essential services that you need in your mobile application, but also across markets to create that network effect of people who want to send money from the Middle East to Africa or South Asia. And I've mentioned our core product, which is the payment card, and we also have an innovative remittance platform. But you'll see further product development through our use of funds. So look out for things like multi-currency wallets and tap to pay. And also we'd love to explore more of the digital asset space. And in terms of our growth, over that period of time, 3 to 5 years, targeting to be in the hundreds of millions in revenues, which will put us in the billions in valuation. And then a technology exchange or the ADX and the DFM, that's further down the track. But we're already talking about how to support us through that process when the time is right. So that's really the big picture.
It's really exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it.
Yeah.
And Elodie, where's Hub 71 going? What can we expect over the next 5 to 10 years?
Next 10 years, wow.
See what you can do.
I assume that in the next 10 years, you will not see the NEF 71 anymore, because this ecosystem will be, like thrilling and existing, and people will be like interconnecting to be able to grow it in a very organic way. Definitely, I think that my vision for Hub is that most of the scale-up, the international scale-up, especially coming from the US, Europe, and also India, and the one coming soon from Africa,
yes,
because it's also a fast-growing ecosystem, will have, their regional headquarters with us in Abu Dhabi. And I think, we will love really to see, this new type of economy around climate tech. A lot of people are talking about it. We see a lot of amazing solutions, but are still at a very, very early stage. The market is not ready. So I really hope that in 5 years from now, we'll have this amazing, solution. We'll be able to impact, the future of the next generation coming out from Abu Dhabi.
Brilliant. I'm really excited about all of that. So we have 1.5 minutes left, I think. Do we have any questions from anyone?
I got a question to Chris. So you've mentioned that a large part of the population is still being unbanked, and
yes,
that's the problem in the entire region. And probably this problem exists in UAE particularly.
yes.
So I kind of have a disconnect. From one side, we're hearing that banking industry in UAE is making a good progress in terms of providing services, digital services to population,
Yes.
in terms of including the population into the banking sphere, and et cetera, et cetera. And from the other side, you are saying there is a large part of the population which is still unbanked, and this is why projects like you enter the market and help. So why is this happening? Why local population cannot get a basic services from the banking sector?
No, that's a great question. I think the banking sector, ultimately banks make their money through lending services. That's ultimately how they make their money, and they provide payment services as a platform for them to then offer them credit services like a credit card or a home loan. And if you're someone who doesn't meet those minimum salary requirements or minimum balance requirements to make to have a bank account, then it's not really worth a bank's. They can't really make money off, I guess, that user or that customer. So where we come in is we provide payment services to anyone. We don't have a minimum balance, minimum salary requirements or minimum balance. We are very highly regulated, but we have a different permission. We don't provide lending services, so we have a permission which is a payment or money services provider license. So we are highly regulated, but it's restricted to a certain segment of banking services or financial services, which doesn't include lending. So we also have cash loading channels through our agent network and the kiosk network. So you'll see the kiosks around the UAE where people who only operate in cash, so clearly they don't have bank accounts, they have to go to these kiosks to pay their utility bills, to top up their mobiles. They can also click on the people icon so they can load their cash in there, and then they have their cash is now digital on their mobile wallet with people, and then with us they have a virtual prepaid card, and they can get a physical card as well, and then all of a sudden they are now included in the financial system. They can buy anything online, 50 million merchants worldwide, whereas they couldn't do that with a bank because they simply cannot get a bank account. They don't meet the minimum requirements. So that's the key points. And then I guess in other regions as well, people are underserved. So the concept of underserved. So that's that segment. There's also another quite a large segment of people who are underserved. So they might have a bank account, but their financial services they have don't meet their full needs. So in Africa, for example, it's very difficult with their bank card to make transactions overseas. There are restrictions on a lot of bank cards in Africa. Whereas if they move money from, say, their M-Pesa mobile money account to the People account, then they can use our card, which is globally accepted, and we don't have any restrictions other than our own restrictions. But so yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chris. I think that means we're out of time. Do we have any last questions?
One for Elodie.
Oh, we have one more in the front row. We'll make that our final one, just behind you there.
Hi. The question is for you for Hub 71. Being that today is the crypto day, it's crypto related. Can you hear me? There we go. What's Hub 71's, let's say, acceptance of startups that operate with blockchain or crypto slightly?
It's a very good question. Stay tuned. We'll be launching, I hope, in Jan, our digital asset hub. What we've been working also with the team and kept us busy away from Abu Dhabi was to bring all the different type of partner, mapping the ecosystem from, like, of course, exchange, but also blockchain infrastructure, Web2 players who can help you, like, to all bring them to Abu Dhabi to work with us, and of course with ADGM. So we'll be launching this new concept around digital assets early Jan, and with a couple of course of major also players, especially in the banking environment in the region, and would love to host as many as possible ventures in that field. But to be sure that we have already all the players in-house with us to be able to scale you as fast as possible and not just try to attract you and get you in a struggle in that very new environment.
Indeed.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good question. All right, thank you so much, Chris and Elodie, for your time. It's been really great to hear about people and also about Hub 71 and what we can expect in the future, the problems that you're solving, and just I love talking about startups. I've loved hearing from you today. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Elodie. Great conversation. Yeah.